What's good, peeps? Thanks as always for passing by the channel. Much appreciated. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are new. All right, with all the talk of Joshua versus Wilder in the last sort of 24 hours or so, I've been racking my brains as to what are, I think, the top 5 fights that make the most money that can be made in boxing today. So not the best, right? The best 5 fights are completely separate from, I think, the fights that make the most money. For example, I think Loma versus Gervonta Davis could be a good fight. Do I think that makes a lot of money right now? I'm not sure. I'm not convinced how big a draw Loma is in America. So that's an example of what I'm talking about. Okay, so number 1, in fact, this is in no particular order, but I do have it written down as number 1, and I think it is a clear number 1 that we can all agree on, is Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. I mean, this fight just keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, each time one wins and it looks impressive, I swear it's almost like another 0 has been added to the tally. It's just enormous now. I think it does. I think it does 2 million pay-per-view buys in the US. That's what I think. I think it's up there now with Oscar versus Floyd or Floyd versus Canelo. I don't think it will get anywhere near Pacquiao versus Mayweather or Conor versus Floyd, but I think it's a huge fight. And I do think, like most people are saying, it's the biggest fight that can be made right now. Both guys are unbeaten. Both are heavyweights. Both have stupid power. And I feel like both now are known to the casual fans as well. And that's what's important about this list. I do feel like for it to be a big fight, there has to be some casual fan interest, right? There are some good fights that can be made that I don't think the casual fans know too much about. And for it to get to that magical, whether it be a million pay-per-view buys, I still think there has to be a casual interest involved. And both have that. Number 2, I've written it down as number 2. I don't know if it is number 2, but I do think this is a huge fight. And more from a European standpoint, Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. Fingers crossed the Americans will understand how big a fight this is in the UK. It's fucking enormous. Apologies for swearing. Obviously, Anthony Joshua has done his last few fights in stadiums in the UK, particularly Wembley Stadium. I was there for his last fight against Povetkin. I think it sold like 80,000 tickets. This is no joke and no hyperbole here. Joshua versus Fury, I think, could do a stadium that had 200,000 seats. I really do think it could do that. I honestly think Joshua Fury could sell out Wembley Stadium twice. Joshua versus Klitschko, I think, did something like, I think it was like 1.5 million pay-per-view buys in the UK. Joshua versus Fury would do 2 million pay-per-view buys in the UK. Easy. Confidently, I can say that it would do 2 million pay-per-view buys in the UK. Fury, I think Americans know now, especially after the Wilder performance, not in the ring, but just how we kind of sell themselves out of the ring, can sell a fight. These two guys are polar opposites. They have promoters that hate each other with a capital H, hate each other. This fight would be sold and promoted so well in the UK, it'd be scary. And it'd be the biggest fight in UK boxing history. So, yeah, confidently. I don't know how well it does in the US. I don't know. It'll be picked up, I guess, by one of the big platforms over there. But I don't know how well it does in the US. But in the UK, Europe, it's massive. It's massive. And that's why I think it's, again, this is in no order, but I do think, looking at the other fights I've written down, I do think it would be number 2 in terms of the money it could generate. I really do. My number 3, I keep saying no order, I'm saying it in order. My number 3, I think, although it's been done twice, I still think a third time round for this one would still do huge numbers, particularly for DAZN, and that's Gennady Golovkin versus Canelo. I mean, it's a fight they want to do. We know that. That's the reason why Golovkin has signed up to DAZN. He wants his rematch against Canelo. Both fights were controversial. I think Golovkin won both. You can make an argument that Canelo won the second one, but the first one was never a draw. What's left of Golovkin, I don't know. We are not going to find out against Steve Rolls. That's not really going to be a judging point. But, I mean, these two, once they get in the ring, it's just a perfect recipe for violence, right? I mean, both of them do not hold back. and both of them come forward. There is no backward step on either. And I still think that it would do amazing numbers. Canelo obviously has got that following. We know about that following now. And I think Golovkin has a following when he fights Canelo. I don't think he's got a major following when he fights people not named Canelo. But for some reason, when he's fighting Canelo, it just escalates. So I still think that would do tremendous numbers. The one I've written down for, I have written down for 4 actually, so I'm going to say 4th. And this one will surprise people, but I think this would do good numbers. Not amazing numbers, because I think there is a drop-off now. But there's a reason that a lot of people will still want to fight this guy. It's not because he's a legendary fighter. It's not because he's a Hall of Famer, an 8-weight world champion. It's because he still does good numbers. And that's Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence. Providing, and this is all in the future stuff, providing Pacquiao can get through Furman, big if, I think Pacquiao versus Spence, and providing obviously Spence gets past Porter, would be massive. I really do think it would do very, very good pay-per-view numbers. It would be a unification fight, right? There'll be 3 belts on the line. It'll be billed as like old versus new. The legend that is Manny Pacquiao versus the new legend that is Errol Spence. Spence has built up somewhat of a following. Obviously, his fight against Mikey done 400,000 pay-per-view buys. People will say that a lot of that is down to Mikey, but nonetheless, he would have got a lot of fans from that fight. And we're talking Manny Pacquiao. I mean, look, if Manny Pacquiao still looks good, and I think we still saw that he looked okay against Broner, Pacquiao can still sell a lot of tickets, right? He can still fill arenas, and I still think he can do pay-per-view numbers. So I'm going for Pacquiao versus Spence as my number 4. My number 5, I was and ahhing about for ages. I can tell you now, it's not Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence, right? That was the one I was and ahhing about. I was thinking, could Crawford versus Spence do good numbers? And I'm not sure. I have to be honest with you, I'm not sure. Did you guys see that? I'm not sure. Look, Crawford versus Khan, who is somewhat of a name. I know it was a fight that many people weren't expecting to be competitive, but nonetheless, that done like 150,000 pay-per-view buys. Crawford is a fantastic fighter. I just don't think he's a draw. I just don't think he's a draw. And I don't think he will ever be a draw, if I'm honest with you. I don't know if that's a fault of Bob Arum. I don't know if that's a fault of Terence Crawford. I just don't know. And again, this is what I kind of go back to what I said in the beginning. I think in order to do good numbers, the casual fan base have to know you. They have to know you and they have to want to support you and watch your fights. I don't know if he has that. I don't know if he has that. Again, I'm happy to be corrected. I think he does good numbers in terms of selling tickets, but this isn't about necessarily tickets. This is about pay-per-view. This is about that kind of revenue. And I just don't think he does that. And as much as that is one of my fights, in fact, it's probably above all these fights in terms of the fight I want to see the most, I just don't think it does great numbers. Those two together, not yet. It's going to take some building. And I don't know, it might get good numbers eventually. I mean, I think Crawford's going to have to fight one of the guys on PBC to start getting some recognition in terms of people knowing who he is. But I just don't see it as a good fight. So I've gone for a rematch of a fight that was supposed to happen in April that happened in December. And that's Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. I think the first fight done what? 300,000 pay-per-view buys? The second one will definitely exceed that. I mean, just based on how that first one ended, come on. I mean, controversial draw, that 12th round. I mean, Wilder's getting a fan base now. Tyson Fury should get a fan base now. He's fighting on ESPN in America. Fury will sell the hell out of the fight. He will say he won. Wilder will say, that count in the 12th round was more than 10 seconds. They will build it up. Both of these guys know how to sell a fight, right? You've got two guys that are almost WWE characters that definitely now I think have a casual fan base, and they will both sell a fight. So that's my top 5 financial fights that can be made today. Remember, not top 5 best. Top 5 best, I'll probably do a separate video for. But top 5 financial fights, just to go over it again, Joshua versus Wilder, Joshua versus Fury, GGG versus Canelo, or should I say Canelo versus GGG, Pacquiao versus Spence, and Fury versus Wilder. What do you guys think? Am I just chatting absolute horseshit here? Or do you understand my thinking? Let me know. Peace.